Hey there, welcome to the Eurostep, a Milwaukee Bucks podcast, proudly a part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and GSPN. I am one of your hosts, Ty Windisch. Joining me from the land of data and science is almost Dr. Rohan Katti. Rohan, in our hearts, you're a doctor of hoop. How about that? Dr. Duncanstein.
Yeah, let's say I'm a doctor of hoop.
Can you dunk on 9?
Probably. I haven't tried.
I would think so. I remember when I realized I could dunk on 8 and I put my hoop at 8 and I was just like, this is the best. I see
goodness.
why this is so fun and like the NBA players kind of get into it with this dunking thing because it's a good time.
It is. Me and my friends would go, there was this park when we were in like high school that had 8-foot hoops and we would just have like dunk contests there. It was the best. It truly is. It's truly fun. I see why NBA players and athletes love it so much. Now I understand why football players just in the offseason are just dunking everything they can.
I would.
Like Myles Garrett, OBJ, they're just like showing these dunk videos.
I know they had to do it. They had to do it because they were like breaking goalposts, but it's still too bad that you can't legally dunk the football in the crossbar either. Because that would have to be a top 10. I mean, imagine you catch a touchdown pass and then dunk a football. I mean, that's got to be top tier. The only thing better would be if you hit like a walk-off in baseball and there was anywhere to dunk the bat. That would be the top tier sports feeling.
That would.
I guess you could run to the outfield, dunk the bat, and run back. But I think by the unwritten rules of baseball, they'd have you killed. Anyway.
Is that not deviating from the path as well?
That's true. But I don't know if you can be out for that for a homer. Baseball, cruising for a bruising, folks, let us know. Adam and Andrew. But anyway, we've got a lot of Bucks stuff to talk about. Milwaukee just wrapped up an uninspiring but very fun, at least on the second half, back-to-back against Indiana and the Spurs. We're going to talk in a minute about the Giannis Wemby duel because it was just outstanding. I mean, I feel like Milwaukee got robbed of seeing this in person a month ago or however long ago. But the Bucks hold on 125-121 on this Segi Baba, however it's said, after losing a couple more games to the Pacers. Pretty similar story in both. Milwaukee's defense just got tired and bad and exploited, and the offense wasn't even close to good enough, in part because of some just not good enough play from Damian Lillard and a bunch of other guys, which we will get into. But nice to see, even without the threes, Dame bounce back and have 25 points, 10 assists, and I think he and Giannis combined for almost all of the last 26 points. I think Pat scored 1 on a free throw, so all of the last field goals in regulation to beat the Spurs. That's a lot of words, Rohan. How's it going? How are you doing? And what are your overall thoughts on the Milwaukee Bucks? I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, did it not register? I just made a fart noise.
Oh, I don't think it registered. So I was like, I don't know what he means. This could be anything.
No. I just made a fart noise because it's been a pretty uninspiring week of Milwaukee Bucks basketball. Way to not the greatest way to ring in the new year. I mean, you talked about it, the back-to-back losses against the Indiana Pacers and against the San Antonio Spurs. They don't put a team away that has 5 victories on the season. I think it was Shaq and Chuck post game were saying, this is the type. I think it was Shaq. This is the type of game where like Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, Phil Jackson, they go into the locker room and they say, yeah, you guys didn't deserve to win this game, because it truly wasn't the most inspiring performance you'll ever see. This is a bad team in the San Antonio Spurs, but the Bucks have been playing down to their competition level. They did that against the Pacers 2 games in a row, and now they've done it against the Spurs. We'll get into why, but just in my general idea of what's going on with the Milwaukee Bucks, my general feeling is it's not super inspiring. It's not super inspiring. I don't think anyone watching these games can actually feel pretty decent about where the Bucks are at this point in time with their current state of play, because there are issues all across the board. There's offensive issues, there's defensive issues, there's personnel issues. It's just that you can't find one thing that the Milwaukee Bucks are really, really excelling at right now. And I think it's just a tough place to be.
Yeah. What do you think the reason is? I've been thinking about this too. It kind of feels like the road trip is taking a little bit of a toll. I think they're sluggish overall, and they have been outside of one of the Indiana games. They've been on the road since December 23rd. They've been home once since then. Knicks on the road, Knicks, Nets, Cavs on the road, Pacers at home, Pacers on the road.
It's been a long way from home.
And now we're in Texas. We're not, but the Bucks are in Texas. They played the Spurs, and I believe now they play the Rockets on the road. Are they still on the road after that?
Let me check.
I thought it was 7 of 8, so I'm guessing they're going back home pretty soon. Maybe one.
So they play the Rockets on Saturday, but then they have a 4-game homestand. They play the Jazz at home, the Celtics, the Warriors, the Kings.
Okay, so some days off and some home games will be nice for the Milwaukee. I don't think that's all of it. I'm not hand-waving all the poor play. I do think that's part of it, though. I think you're a step sluggish, and it really manifests itself when you're already not a great offensive team or defensive team. And I've had people upset at me because I keep blaming the offense and they're giving up 144 or whatever to the Pacers. But I do think the things are so interconnected. And when they give up live ball turnovers, which they've been doing, they just have not been sharp enough offensively. I think there's been some indecision on everyone's part, just not enough shots being taken. And one of the main culprits, I know you did a graph on, and we will talk about in detail later. But the bad offense makes the bad to okay defense look horrendous. And I think that's been the worst of it for the Bucks. I think teams have gotten out in the break, and then they've gotten their confidence like we used to see in a different way on the Budenholzer Bucks when the drop would allow open shots. And then, even if you take them away, even if you switch after, teams get in that rhythm, and then they just don't miss. I think that's what the Pacers did. I think the Spurs, you look at a Spurs team that is not good, has some solid players. I mean, Devin Vassell is good, and he looked great against Milwaukee, but, he gets out in transition, some open shots on leakouts. He ends up shooting 67% from the field and from 3, 6 for 9 from deep. Wemby had a great game from 2, couldn't get the threes to fall. Cedi Osman is finding some space and knocking down some threes. It honestly felt like the Spurs were shooting better from 3, but Milwaukee also just let Jeremy Sohan shoot, and that did not go well for San Antonio. But it just feels like I don't know if they have some, malignant issue that they can't overcome, and they're just going to be like this. It just feels like they're in a rut in the new year for whatever reason. And I'm hopeful they can snap out of it before the road trip ends against Houston. But I just feel like something's going to click and they're just going to look better. And maybe it's Dame hitting 3 threes in the first quarter, and then the offense is on easy mode again, and things go from there. But it has felt like just a cascading series of issues that something just needs to snap at some point. Besides Giannis, who I thought has played very well for almost all of these games and kept them afloat.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of factors at play here, and we'll talk a little bit more about the minutia of what's going on in these games. But you hope, like at the end of the day, you hope that it's just like an issue of, just guys aren't hitting their shots. They're not in a good groove. But I'm starting to see a little bit of issues on where should we start?
What were you going to say?
Let's start with the offensive then.
Okay.
The offensive end of the court. And I know you had mentioned that Damian Lillard, just if he's hits 3 threes in a first quarter and gets this team going, that'll be great. Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be amazing if Damian Lillard was able to actually perform like the all NBA caliber player that he is and has been throughout his career. I mean, just both Pacers games just let Giannis down, frankly. It's just, and while taking an insane amount of shots, he's just not hitting them. He's getting to his spots, but he's not getting to his spots as cleanly as he has been earlier in the season, whether that be because of just some fatigue or whether that's just because of maybe it's not the highest quality of screens being set, though that has improved as the season has gone on. Maybe he's still trying to figure out his rhythm. Maybe, we don't know, behind the scenes, the offense could be being rejiggered with all of with the new coaching hire. Who knows? I'm not saying that's happening. I'm saying it's a possibility. So all of these things are sort of happening at once. But on the offensive end of the court, I am not seeing teams get this Milwaukee Bucks team get into a good flow like they were during the month of December. During that month of December, where you're scoring 130 plus points per game, you saw this offense hitting its at all cylinders. I forget which game it was. What was the pinnacle offensive game from the Bucks in the month of December? I'm trying to pull it up right now.
I mean, they put 140. Probably the Pacers game. They scored 140. Then they put up 146 on the Pistons. 120 on the Rockets was pretty good.
146 on the Knicks, I think is what I'm talking about.
The Knicks game was a great one too. Yeah.
But the thing is with the Knicks game and all of these other games, but mostly the Knicks game from my memory, you saw a lot of players getting in the right positions on offense. You saw guys reading and reacting, making cuts correctly. The Bucks aren't doing that right now. The Indiana Pacers in those 2 games against the Bucks, they were just sending everyone they could at Giannis. And previously, we had seen Bucks players sort of get into the right spots, find Giannis's passing vision, get into the right lanes. If someone's trying to recover, back cut on him. If he's trying to, if Giannis is driving the lane, or if someone else, Dame, whoever, is just like driving the lane. And yeah, you can do a little Wade Iverson cut. See if you can get some free space against a defense that's loading up against a drive. That was happening. If you see these last 3 games that the Milwaukee Bucks have played, that hasn't really been happening. We've seen guys get really out of position. Take the Spurs game, for example. There was a possession where Pat Connaughton drove into Giannis and just lost the ball out of bounds. That's just that is emblematic of a team that's out of sorts. Like, they don't know where they're supposed to be on the court, because that can't be if that's the plan. Just throw everything away, because that can't be the plan.
Let's cut to the bench, because I think these are very intertwined issues. The starters played fairly well for, I think, the first 2 to 3 quarters in both Indiana games, at least the second one. I mean, the Bucks had a lead at halftime. The bench comes in and things have just been falling apart. And we noted this weeks ago that the bench was not playing good enough. They had a kind of good run, and now it's back to just being horrible again. Of course, there was the one Pacers game where Milwaukee got outscored by like 50 points or something by their bench, which was inflated because 2 Pacers starters combined to play like 19 minutes. So it wasn't like they did it in the similar minutes to Milwaukee's bench, but still, it was a disparity. Bobby's afraid to shoot threes. Pat, I don't know what's going on with Pat half the time. I mean, it's like usually he's in the right position. Defensively, he's been getting bullied a lot of the time. He jumps way out of the play all the time, again, which had been a problem for him in the past. Just can't hit shots most of the time when they really need him to. When they used to go down late in games, there was a dagger against the Spurs that would have put it away earlier, and it just didn't go down. Campaign, it's just like flip a coin if he's going to hit any shots or not. I think he was 0 for 4 against the Spurs.
At least he's consistent in what he does.
Yeah, I mean, he played well in the second Pacers game. Well, I mean, better than most of the rest of the bench. It wasn't great. Marjan's been okay. I mean, he's worked the dunker pretty well. It's been good to see.
That second Indiana Pacers game was a prime example of how Marjan has really found his way in the Bucks offense. And again, he had missed a game earlier from a non-COVID illness, so him working his way back, getting back into the rotation is good. But sorry, continue.
No, it's good. And then Andre Jackson Jr. has like made a couple of mistakes and just not had as much run as we're used to seeing. And I know the season long, and I think the recent numbers, as fun as it's been to watch him, the Bucks have been demonstrably worse with him on the court. Going back to, and obviously it's somewhat uneven minutes, but how many threes do you think Marjan has hit since after the game on December 5th, which was the Knicks in-season tournament win?
How many threes has he hit? Probably like 5.
Wow, you are. It's 7 with tonight's game. Excuse me, but yeah, 5 coming into tonight's game, which he hasn't even shot a poor percentage. To be fair, he just hasn't shot very many, which I think he turns them down sometimes as well and doesn't always let it go. I feel like that's a lot of the gumming up. Even with Dame, who is in many ways the ultimate spacer, pretty much everyone coming off the bench either is not comfortable letting an open shot go or does and just isn't effective at it. And it's just hard to maintain. For a team that needs to rely on offense, it's hard when everyone you bring in is gumming up the offense to some extent. I mean, we're going to have a Bobby conversation probably pretty soon. Like he had his shot for like 2 weeks, and before he had his shot, he was finding ways to contribute. His post-ups were more effective. He was getting to the rim. He was rebounding. These last couple of games, he's just looked lost out there. I don't really know what's going on. I thought this was a game he could feast against a Spurs team that has like one big and who was on a minutes restriction, only play half the game and is not as strong as Bobby and Wembanyama, but unable to make an impact again. So I also wonder how much Khris Middleton, who played half of the Spurs game, maybe it had to do with the rest policy. His first back-to-back, though, in quite some time, years probably.
I don't think he did one last season.
I think he might have tried. See, we're going to have to look it up, but I want to look it up later. I wonder how much, though, I want your thought on this, how much Khris coming back and being on ball a bit more? Do you think guys are getting acclimated to that too? I don't really know exactly what it is. I think the bench has a lot to do with it though, because they've just been poor.
I think those two sort of could feed into each other, because we have seen a lot of lineups with Khris Middleton plus bench players. Like these are sort of lineups we're starting to see more. And I think you hit the nail on the head here, is that one of the biggest problems for the Bucks bench is just indecisiveness. They don't know where they're going. Like Bobby Portis, like we'll talk about Bobby in a little bit, but
we've teed this up 5 times. People are going to think we have outlandish Bobby takes.
It's just a lot of indecisiveness, and it's a lot of guys not knowing. Here, let's do the Bobby thing. What is, like, I shared a graphic on good old Twitter about how Bobby Portis is second in the league in frequency of post-ups. So just any possession where he posts up, he's the second highest frequency, right behind Nikola Jokic, and so he's second. The rest of the top 10, but besides Jokic and Bobby, Bam Adebayo, Jonas Valanciunas, Yusuf Nurkic, Anthony Davis, Alperen Şengün, Joel Embiid, Julius Randle, DeAndre Ayton. Like, those are all players who you would expect to be like, yeah, these guys are just posting up all the time. The issue is that Bobby is not has not been an efficient post-up. It hasn't been an efficient play. And the points per possession he has are 0.91. That's the second lowest in the top 10 outside of DeAndre Ayton, who just is at 0.81. And it's just like, yeah, Portland Trailblazers are a tanking franchise. And yeah, I'd like that almost just doesn't count.
He's also just not a real post-up player. He just doesn't really do it. He's, I think, 10th in frequency among the top 10. So
yes, he is. He is tied with Julius Randle at 16.5%. But yeah, the post-up frequency is high, but the post-up points per possession are not high. Because how often do you see him pass out of a post-up opportunity? And how often do you see him actually be a hub, like Bam Adebayo, for instance? Like, he posts up a lot because he acts as an offensive hub from like the elbow, from the post position. That's where he operates, and that's how he runs the team. Bobby Portis, when he posts up, what else has Bobby Portis done in the last 2 weeks or however long it's been, besides just set a screen at the corner so we can get post position and have the guy throw the ball? That's what else is being done when he's on the court.
Passing up threes.
Nothing. That's it. That's realistically it. Like, there have been so many possessions where it's just Damian Lillard feeding Bobby Portis in the post, and it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
I don't understand. And Bobby Portis, he has not been that guy for, like, he just hasn't like done this before. Like, he is second right now. He was 10th in post-up frequency last season. He was 10th, and he had a higher points per possession. He was at 0.99 at a 19.2% frequency last season. And it's just like, even last season, we were starting to see like a little bit of the cracks, right? I just need him to do more. I need him to do more. Yeah. I don't think that's too much to ask for.
No, but the problem is he hasn't been a good shooter at all. I don't have the season-long number in front of me, but I know it's not very good. And when he's a roll man in pick and roll this season, which he does less often, he only scores 0.91 points, which for anyone who's not familiar with the nerd stuff, anything below 1 point per possession is not very good. I mean, you like to be a little bit above 1. It's like a pretty good play. And it's obviously just how many times you score. It's not going to be like above 2 in any sort of real sample. That would obviously be a pretty busted play if you got a score every time, essentially. But sub 1 is pretty bad. I mean, it's basically like shooting less than 50% on a 2-point shot without drawing any free throws. So obviously, even with the free throws mixed in, to be below 1 is not ideal. And it's been an issue because we all know, as much as he's had found some success trapping, that does not seem to work as well lately, and switching and everything else. Bobby Portis has to be an offense-first player. And this goes back to last postseason, or 2022 postseason, excuse me, when we talked about, well, actually, Bobby didn't defend horrible against the Celtics that playoffs, but the shots weren't falling. And then it's just like, you're fine if you're an okay defender, if you're a good offensive player consistently. Like that's for sure. That's Damian Lillard. He's more than a good offensive player consistently, but make a couple steals and fight, and that's enough. That's all you need. Bobby is no Dame offensively and has just not been good offensively. He's still, I think, like 7th in bench scoring. It was according to the broadcast, which I have to imagine is buoyed by some earlier season stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's funny because I've seen gripes about some of the bench lineups, and it was a ugly one that actually wasn't horrible tonight with Khris only playing one half, that it was Campaign, Pat, all bench players. I don't forget who else was all out there. It wasn't Bobby because he didn't play in the fourth quarter of this game, which I thought was illuminating. But Bobby should be able to hub those bench units to a certain extent. I mean, that's his role on the team, is to do those post-ups and everything. So it's been disheartening to see. I think a lot of the issue lately is he hasn't been a great fit with the starters, and he hasn't been able to provide that bench punch. And that's just a killer for a guy that you need that from. And you can say the same for Pat Connaughton, who I think is less detrimental to the starters. I think he does take the shots most of the time. He just has not made them, which I guess really isn't that much better, but whatever. And again, has not provided. I think, did he score 3 points again?
Probably. I don't know.
I think he had 3 points and 4. No, he had 7 points. I think coming into this game, he had 3 points on either 1 for 3 or 1 for 4 shooting, 4 or 5 games in a row. And I was like, okay, that's not very good.
Yeah, and I guess to go back to these numbers, and I've seen in my replies, shout out Frank Venn, who was saying as sort of saying it's 2.4 shots per game, which is true. That is, it's 2.4 field goal attempts on these post ups from Bobby Portis. That's true. My thing is that it's not just the possessions where he shoots. It's not even the possessions where it counts as a post-up, because it only counts as a post-up if he's able to get the ball in post position. There's so many times where he's just fighting for post position, and it's like the entire offense is just, how can we get Bobby Portis the ball? And again, this isn't the end all be all. The reason the Bucks are struggling is not solely because of Bobby Portis post-ups. No, that's not what I'm trying to say here. What I'm trying to say is it's one of the issues, and it's also emblematic of the current issues plaguing the Milwaukee Bucks, is that they seem out of sorts. They seem out of sorts. They're struggling to find identity in these lineups. Because one thing they're trying to do, and credit to Bobby, he's trying his best to do it, is, hey, when I'm in the game, we're going to feed me. We're going to do it. This is just how it is. Yeah, that's an identity. It is an identity. Is it a good one? Probably not.
Well,
but
the other counter is, what else is he doing?
Yeah, it's if he's not taking threes and he's not being a spacing threat on a pick and pop, then
he's not rolling effectively. It's not necessarily to me about how many possessions. It's what is the value prop then of Bobby?
Exactly. What I'm trying to illustrate here is that he's only doing that, and that he could provide so much more. Because like you said, if you want to catch the ball in a painted area, sort of operate out of the short roll. You can do that. That'd be a good role for Bobby.
Yeah,
he'd be able to see the ball, see the court well. He'd be able to operate right in the lane. He'd be able to set screens, maybe get a ball handler some space. So there's multiple options, because if he gets the ball in post position, he's not going to pass the ball.
Yeah,
and it's just like another Bucks big, but it's you can do more. Again, I'm not trying to say this is the post up frequency and points per possession are the end all be all. No, I'm not. I actually watch these games too. And I'm just saying it's backing up my eye test of, he can provide more, because he's not providing a lot in his role right now.
Yeah, Frank, to put it simply.
And especially considering we're going to have a conversation soon, and he is one of 2 real tradable salaries on this Bucks team.
Yeah. That is another very good point to make. Yeah, I think it's just it's been tough, and it's not easy to just totally redo his role as the season's going on, but he has not posted up well enough over the course of the season to, I think, justify that spot at this point. And he came into the year as that's your 6th man. He was a 6th man of the year finalist last season. I don't think he has really played to that standard for most of this season so far. I know it's his goal to win it. I don't think that's going to happen. He just has not been good enough, which is obviously unfortunate. I think the bench in general has just been poor. I remember poo-pooing, I might have been Bot or someone in our Discord, gspn.info for the link, on would you do Pat Connaughton and the Bucks' future second for Cedi Osman? And I was like, no, you don't really know Cedi Osman's better, and all blah, blah, blah. I've watched Pat a lot. I watched Cedi Osman tonight. If that's how Cedi Osman usually looks, he's better. He's just a better player right now.
I do not think that is how Cedi Osman usually looks.
Let me pull up the numbers. Well, do you know what Pat's averaging?
Bad.
5 points, 60% from 2, 32% from 3. It's not ideal. The assist to turnover is not bad, though. But it's just the lack of productivity is the issue. I mean, less than 6 points when he's played. I mean, Griffin has tried to rely on him and obviously is aware of what he accomplished on the team. Cedi in 18 minutes, 7.3 points. He's actually only shooting 35% from 3. He is a guy that always feels like he's shooting better. Never mind. I don't want Cedi Osman. I never really wanted him. But the problem is, for tonight, he looked like the clearly better player, and that's an issue. And Pat has been outplayed by all sorts of bench guys going back the whole season and all of last season except for the playoffs. And it's those two guys are the guys you want to rely on coming off of your bench. In theory, if you have them, and in a normal game, you always have one of Khris, Giannis, Dame, you should be okay. That should be enough offense no matter who else is out there. And it's a good roster. It's not like there's bums next to those guys. There's young guys, but there's not bums. But the young guys have played better. I think it's pretty easy to make a case that one of the worst Adrian Griffin things we've seen is over-relying on these guys. But then you also have to factor in it's a long season, and you don't want to give up on vets who have won a championship with the Milwaukee Bucks. However, I do think we're getting to a point where those guys lose opportunity, especially we have some Jay Crowder news we'll talk about. But, the young guys, I think, played more in the fourth quarter than Bobby did against the Spurs. I don't think that was an accident.
No, it wasn't an accident. And it's not just Bobby. I'm not trying to pile on Bobby, but it's just the bench in general. Pat Connaughton, I can say the same exact things. Not talking about post-ups, but just in terms of overall level of play, it's just not where it needs to be. It just isn't.
Yeah. So then what else? There's defense?
Yeah, let's talk about the other Bucks big.
Here's the thing with Brook Lopez. Has not
I thought we were
well.
talking about Marquise Bolden.
I think we're going to be if Brook and Bobby keep playing like this. No, but I think
and by the way, Bobby did not play in the fourth against the Spurs.
Yeah. He closed out the third. He looked like he hurt his hand, but then he stayed in the game. It could be related. I guess we'll see on that. But Brook offensively actually had a couple of decent games. He had a couple of solid box score games against Indiana, but he just looks old and slow out there. And it's a 7-foot guy in his mid-30s against a very young, very fast team. So it makes sense to a certain extent. But I think the Bucks defense on the perimeter has scaled back to such an extent that the way that they're guarding screens, Brook just can't effectively drop anymore. The Bucks are giving up paint points. It's not just in transition. I mean, that happens feels like twice a game, maybe, that they get straight up just beaten. Now I'm not talking about semi-transition. I'm not obviously if they have a steal in the half court and a guy's in front of everyone, he's gonna dunk. That's not what I mean. Like a rebound and it just gets thrown over. At most 4 points a game, even against the Pacers at this point. But I mean, Tyrese Halliburton or Benedict Mathurin or TJ McConnell or, God, who else plays for the Pacers? And you can say the same for all the Spurs guys. Their defender dies on the screen. They are basically 2-on-1 with Brook. And it just feels like he has not won one of those possessions in weeks. And you shouldn't expect him to win every time. That's why I've cut him a little bit of slack. That's a hard position. I mean, that's why a lot of teams don't have success with drop coverage. Because if you can't fight over the screen, it is really hard. But he's lunging out of position. You see him try and go for blocks sometimes. Someone was posting up Giannis in one of the Pacers games. He's diving for the block, and then the center gets the offensive rebound and taps it in. It feels like the volume of attempts that he's having to defend has just kind of thrown off his feel for how to do it. And it's been ugly back there. I don't think there's any debating it. I'm not saying it's all on him, but I am saying the problems on the perimeter have been too leaky for him to solve them all like he used to be able to do.
Yeah, for sure. It's important to point out it's not all on him because he doesn't have that same ball pressure that he's used to having to help him out in terms of like a Drew Holiday, in terms of like a Javon Carter, George Hill in years past.
For now, on those last two.
Yeah, for now. For now, we'll see.
George could step out of that podcast studio tomorrow.
He could.
Hop off the ranch.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to get him off the ranch.
It is. He loves the ranch.
Does love the ranch. But
for anyone who thinks there's something weird there, he's an outdoorsy guy with a big ranch in Texas, I think. That's all. That's the reference.
Imports animals to hunt.
Listen. Okay. Still.
I'm just pointing out a fact.
But in a different way.
I'm just pointing out a fact.
Yeah, we can move on. We just lost our NRA listeners.
There's a whole. I didn't even say anything good or bad.
I did.
I just said.
I did.
Yeah.
I said weird in a different way. Yeah.
There's a whole Bucks All Access about him giving a tour to the team about the ranch. But yeah, Brook Lopez does not have the same ball pressure to sort of help him out, like in terms of like guys fighting over screens, in terms of guys like sort of fighting from behind to try and like get rear contests and stuff like that. And so that makes his life a little more difficult. The perimeter defense has been more leaky, like you mentioned. And that kind of that's not Brook's fault. That's not Brook's fault. What the Brook issue is that you can't deviate from that scheme in order to like sort of fix your problems, because it's like
when he's playing.
Exactly. When Brook Lopez is playing, you can't really deviate from a drop because he will struggle in other ways and teams will exploit that. Look at what the Bucks did when the Spurs brought in Mamu. He was in for like 5 seconds and then he was out because like the Bucks just went at him. If there's a 2 minutes and 31 seconds Mamu played in this game, Bucks legend, Herd legend, love you Mamu. But the Bucks saw it just like it was just barbecue chicken every time Mamu, they went at Mamu. And I'm not saying Brook is going to be that, but I'm saying if you try to deploy Brook in any other scheme besides drop, if you want to have him high hedge, you want to trap with Brook, have him sort of like hedge and recover. Yeah, teams are going to exploit that immediately.
They tried against the Pacers. It did not go well.
It did not go well because what teams will do is if they even tried like switching everything. Yeah. There were like a few possessions, and like credit to the Bucks, they're trying.
Yeah,
they're absolutely trying. Like look at that second and Pacers game of the week. They employed like 4 different coverages in a quarter or something like that.
Yeah,
they're trying a lot of different things, but I think the issue is you can't try a lot of different things with Brook Lopez. You really can't. You really can't. Like he excels in a drop. That's where you can best play him. But unfortunately, the personnel around him is not best suited to play a drop defense. So it kind of makes life difficult for him. It's sort of what's the phrase I'm looking for? Is that a catch-22?
Yeah. Between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, it's like you can't deviate from a drop because then Brook will be exploited, but you can't really use a drop because teams are already exploiting that because of the perimeter defense.
Yeah.
The perimeter defense and the interior defense are sort of out of sync for the Milwaukee Bucks, and they're having a hard time trying to bridge that gap. One thing that the Bucks could try and do that they haven't really gone to this season is just go small Giannis at the 5. They've sort of not done that, whether that's just because, one, they know how it works and they don't need to try that during the regular season. But I would argue against that because this is a new team, new personnel.
Yeah.
Or two, they just want to start using it later in the season before the playoffs. So you can
I think we're going to see that when Crowder's back.
That was the option number 3.
Yeah.
Is that you don't have that linchpin forward who is boss man 9-9.
The boss man cometh.
The boss man cometh. Do you want to give the news on boss man's return?
Do. According to Jared Greenberg on TNT during tonight's broadcast, he caught up with Jay Crowder. This guy got in there and reported. They did one game. He had good reports from the TNT broadcast crew. Crowder is pain-free, cleared for on-court, We'll do 5-on-5 on Sunday. And if that goes well, was it he could return a week from today, Thursday?
I think I missed this, so it's
okay. So either a week from Sunday or a week from Thursday. So potentially that Celtics game, which would be a crazy game to come back to, but I'm sure Bossman would want to. But things are going well, and we're close. We're a week to 10 days away from Bossman 99's return to action.
Yeah, especially because we saw him. Hopefully. Knock on wood. Hopefully he returns soon. But we saw earlier in the season when he was playing, and I was about to say healthy. It turns out he wasn't truly fully healthy. We saw it. Like, he's a good fit with this version of the Milwaukee Bucks. Like, he is a guy who can be a sort of versatile forward, who can sort of be a strong defender. He's not going to move his feet as quick as he used to.
No.
But he is going to be able to stay in front of guys and be sort of like a strong guy to really like just be a
He should make a new line of merch, just a strong guy.
He should.
The Jay Crowder story.
I'd buy it. Restock your store, man. Boss man.
You're ready to spend on the Boss Man.
I almost did.
Well, he's had some time off. Maybe he's been cooking up some new designs in the lab.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Boss man, come on the pod. But
please.
Yeah, he's sort of that linchpin forward for the Giannis at the 5 lineups because you need like a strong, sturdy power forward who can really switch. And that's what Jay Crowder is.
Yeah.
Theoretically, that's what Jay Crowder is and has been this season before he unfortunately had to get surgery. So maybe that's another reason why we haven't seen a lot of Giannis at the 5. But it's also a question of with Giannis at the 5 lineups, like that's taking out 2 of your top 6 guys.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's with all of this, like the young guys should play more, the young guys should play X minutes per night. It's like, who's not playing then? And it's easy to say, Bobby and Pat, just don't play them.
But that's just not how the NBA works.
Well,
it's not how like relationship dynamics work.
Also, it's just like look at the size of the team. I mean, you don't want Giannis starting at the center for a regular season, at least not at this stage in his career. And it's just difficult. I'll tell you what. This is going to be a hot take from Ty. I hope this age is horrible. I hope I get laughed at for this in a month when he looks awesome again. I don't think Brook is untradeable right now. I mean, I don't know.
Wouldn't say.
Technically, maybe he is until the 15th, but you know what I mean? Like this season, which is unfortunate, but I think what I would prefer is if they could add a defender prior to the deadline and just see how much of a difference does that make? And Crowder, maybe that'll give us some clarity, but a point guard defender. People have seen me pine over Chris Dunn, who's shooting 40% on catch and shoot threes.
Is he your new Bismack Biyombo?
I mean, Biz was unemployed at the time. So I feel like this is not as down bad as that.
Yeah, that's fair.
That would be like Stanley Johnson would be my Biz. Is he still floating around? Stanimal? I think he is.
He's definitely floating around. He's not in the league.
That's what I meant. He gave those Lakers a couple good stints. I'm just saying.
He's with the Stockton Kings right now. He's
very available. That's another thing that I heard from Jake Fisher this week is the Bucks held a veteran workout Monday, potentially for guys with two-way eligibility, which I don't think Stanimal qualifies there. But I do feel like the need on the roster is obvious. I mean, they just need more bench punch, and Crowder coming back would help if they ever, whether it's Crowder or someone else starts. I mean, Beasley off the bench would help the bench a ton. Beasley has been, most of the time, very consistent offensive player. He's had some nice finishing.
He is decisive as well.
He can score at the rim and from three, which is true for 2 other guys.
Yeah.
I guess you could say Marjan.
I guess.
Would be the 4th. Dame, Khris, Bees, Marjan. I mean, Giannis tonight.
Ajax has shown he can shoot.
Yeah, the rim part's the issue with Ajax.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about there. We haven't even talked about Giannis Wemby. We'll have to maybe end with that because it's very fun. But
still have to do stocks.
Yeah. I think it won't take long. But yeah, we'll end with Bucks, Spurs, stocks, and quick recap. I don't remember the point I was making. Oh, they just need a guard defender, I think, even after Boss Man is back, because the point guards are just getting by way too easily at this point.
What? Okay, a little tangent. I Googled Stanley Johnson.
Yeah.
And just one of the suggested questions, like people also ask, right?
Yeah.
Who is Jennifer Kidd married to?
Is it Stanley Johnson?
Oh, it is a Stanley. It's not the Stanley Johnson we're talking. Okay, that makes sense.
Who's the first person? Is this a known person?
Stanley Patrick Johnson is a British French author and former politician who is a member of the European Parliament from 1979 to 1984.
I wonder if they called him Stanley too.
I hope they do. I don't know if he's alive. Is he alive?
I mean,
he's alive.
Yeah. All right.
He's 83.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I was just really confused.
Yeah.
Okay, now wait. Oh, he's Boris Johnson's dad. Oh, there we go. Because another one of people also ask her, who are Boris Johnson's parents? And I'm just like, what's going on here?
This is your version of like Reddit or something where you just go through the Google suggested and just like learn things.
Yeah. And another people also ask, what languages can Boris speak when you Google Stanley Johnson?
Close it out. This won't end, Rohan. We'll
Okay.
Another thing about the British parliamentary system.
Oh, don't get me started.
No, I hasn't.
But, well, yeah, the Bucks bench does need a punch.
Do you think they can just play better?
I think they can, but there's also a clear need. I think also, like we've said, Boss Man coming back will answer a lot of questions about this team.
What's going to happen the rest of the wing minutes is what I'm going to be really fascinated by.
I don't know. I truly don't know. Maybe Boss Man plays really well. Maybe we get a situation where Pat's just extremely tradable because he's just not in the rotation. At least what Bobby has going for him is that he's scarce.
Yeah, that's the thing. That if Bobby got traded, that you'd have to bring a big back. I mean,
there's no choice.
We joke about Marquise Bolden. He just has not proven anything at the NBA level. You can't trust him to come in and give you real rotational role. And don't want to belabor a point, but Robin Lopez jersey swapped with someone who had as much impact as he did in Bucks Spurs, and it was the Spurs mascot. He's not at a place where he can play every night either. My favorite conspiracy theory from our Discord is that Robin was bored, so he and Brook are identity swapping, and that's been the issue.
If that's true, it's just no. There's no way. So the theory is that it's just Brook wearing a wig.
Yeah, on the bench. Yes.
Yeah, on the bench. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Robin shaved and
that'd be wild.
Could you imagine?
No, the shooting form is
he would have to be doing a very good impression.
Because those two have very, very different shots.
And Brook would have to be doing a good one on the garbage time too, because it has looked very Robin.
Yeah, I don't think, but he only has to do like 2 a year though.
That's true. No, I feel like they could snap out of it to a certain extent, but I feel like they do need some help. Crowder will provide some. I think that they could use some more. Defensively, I know from reading and interacting with Bucks Film Room, Brian on Twitter, the gripe is the guards start picking up too far from the hoop, like 30 feet away, which actually I watched the fourth quarter. The only guy who did was Andre Jackson Jr., and he got pulled right after doing it and fouling. It seemed like they played a lot lower. The rest of that quarter, I don't know if that was it seemed like an adjustment. I think that's true. Like the scheme could be better. They do press. They don't force enough turnovers with their personnel. I also I've seen guys get beat from the corner and just driven straight around. Like I don't know. I think that tweak maybe helps. I don't think it doesn't solve the issue defensively to me. Like I feel like we've moved past a point where scheme is killing them defensively. I think the quality of their defenders and their effort to a certain point are killing them defensively. The funny thing is, Dame has not really been one of their biggest issues, which I think a lot of us worried about.
He hasn't. He truly hasn't.
He's probably been their best guard defender.
I think he is. Right now, he's been
which is an issue.
Yeah, it is. But also credit to Dame.
Yeah, not for him, but for the team. I mean, there's clear limitations there just based on his workload offensively.
Yeah. But yeah, he has not been an issue. It's been guys like Campaign. It's been Malik Beasley. It's been Andre Jackson Jr. at times.
Yeah.
It's like name a guard or a wing on the Bucks, and it's been them.
Has like
Khris. Khris is a turnstile.
Yeah, They try to use him as like a guy to pick up assignments sometimes. I'm always like, that's weird. But usually there's a switch. It doesn't end up mattering. But I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah, they sort of do it. So they put him on him. Like, I'm glad you pointed that out.
Pre-switch.
Yeah, they pre-switch it.
But still, you're obviously running the risk of just an ISO as well.
Yeah, and we've seen that at times. Like Tyrese Halliburton was just he was just ISOing from the top of the key and hitting whatever three he wanted.
Freaking Caitlin Cooper. I didn't mean to say freaking Caitlin Cooper. She's great, but play, she pointed out the fake. He called for fake stack, and Khris and Giannis both kind of ducked around a screen that wasn't happening, and Tyrese just walked into an open three. My new take on Tyrese is stupid, sexy Tyrese Halliburton. He's awesome. We would love this so much. That's why I can't be mad at him. He's talking to all the fans in Indiana and skipping around, and I'm like, man.
It's only against the Bucks, though.
Yeah? I mean, I don't watch that much of the rest.
No, because the Pacers haven't been good enough against other teams.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they've had the Bucks. They had the Bucks number. That's the last regular season game.
Yeah.
So you can do with that if you win. You're 4-1 against the team. Yeah,
exactly. He's not a dirty player.
Not in the slightest.
I don't hate him for it. I respect him, but also like I'm sick of it.
Yeah, I'm sick. I'm sick of TJ McConnell. I've had enough TJ McConnell.
What does he have against Milwaukee?
I don't know. I think Drew bullied him a lot, so he's just built up a lot of anger, and he's just taking it out on Campaign and Dame.
Everyone.
Yeah,
he beat Giannis once. He's just incredible.
I don't understand
against the Bucks.
I don't understand. Like
I do think that's a factor that is again. I don't want to make excuses. Those games meant a lot to the Pacers. Benedict Mathurin looks like prime Jimmy Butler against the Bucks. Every time I watch Benedict Mathurin against the Bucks, I'm like, wow, this guy is next up in the league. And then like you read Pacers coverage from any other game, they're like, Mathurin disappeared again. I'm like, what? Why? Just because like Giannis was 11-0 in 11 games or something against you, you don't have to be this mad. I guess you do. I guess you do if you ever want to snap that. But
yeah, they snapped it.
They snapped it.
They definitely snapped it.
Yeah.
But hopefully the Bucks can snap out of whatever they're in right now.
I think they will. I'm not long-term concerned. I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of watching it.
It's a bad stretch. Like we'll call it as we see it. It's a bad stretch.
I like Dame's quotes after the second Pacers loss. I always kind of go to Dame because I know people are always like, oh, where's Dame at? Is Dame this? Is Dame that? And he was like, I've had this situation before in my career when it seemed like a team had our number in the regular season and we came back and we got them in the playoffs. Like, we're not playing well, but it's a good opportunity for us to learn and grow and fix what we're doing. I was like, that is true. I mean, I know obviously we want to see it happen more than we want to hear people talk about it, but it's a good attitude. I think Giannis has been on the same wavelength. I think they know they have to be better. Again, I think Giannis has been pretty great. But Dame just has to shoot better, and then the rest of the roster just needs to fit in better. I think that's an issue, and I think John Horst can help out with that by getting better fits. But
are you saying they should fit in and not fit out?
I mean, yes. Literally, we got Pat Connaughton running into people.
That was it's one of the worst plays I've seen, man.
That turnover, I was just like, oh, they might lose to the Spurs.
Yeah, I thought honestly, I thought they were going to lose to the Spurs because Wemby had an alien game.
He did.
And just like let's do stocks.
Wemby up. I mean, just real quick before we get going, 10 for 18 from the field, but again, he was only 2 of 8 from 3, so he was 8 for 10 from 2, 5 for 6 from free throw, 9 rebounds, just some ridiculous plays. 5 blocks. Yeah. The alley-oop to himself when he fooled Giannis and nobody thought to try and box him out, although it's hard to do. You know, the block on Giannis when Giannis got the move, got the space he always gets, goes up to yam it on him. Wemby says no.
He got him once though. They got each other. They got each other.
Of course. You could tell they loved playing against each other. That's why, you know, I enjoyed the game, even though I was like, I wish the Bucks were playing. I didn't enjoy all of it. But like
it was so
in the fourth quarter, I was like,
fun.
This is a fun. This is why we watch this stuff. So you could say Giannis got the better of Wemby though. 44 points, 14 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, just 1 turnover, 67% from the field, 67% from 3, 2 huge ones in the fourth quarter. The form looked pure, and 4 of 6 from free throw. He put the team on his back. And then Dame stepped up and helped him carry it out, but my God, there was a time in that fourth where it's just like, oh, Giannis does not want to lose to Wemby. Okay, we're here for this. and it was awesome.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So in terms of stocks for this game, I think we're gonna go ahead and say Giannis up.
So my question is 1 or 2. I know he's
Might
already
be
at 55, but
so let's say 1. Let's say 1.
All right, 1.5, informal half.
Informal half, I agree. So what does that put him at? Put him
56.
At 56. And then we got Bobby down.
Yeah, all the reasons we talked about.
We got Brook down.
Yep.
Do we do Pat?
We probably could. What was his final line? 2 for 4. So he finally knocked down a couple threes. He had 6 rebounds. He did have 3 turnovers. He was the only bench player with a positive plus minus.
So okay, we'll give him an informal down, half down.
That's fair. He did get it down 2 games ago as well. So he's probably, the sad thing is he's probably been one of the better players on that bench unit, but that just shows you it's not been a good unit. I think Campaign probably avoids it. He wasn't good, but I think he had a lot of assists and 1 or 0 turnovers. 4 assists, 1 turnover. He's 0 for 3, but he hit 5 free throws. He did draw a lot of free throws in the fourth quarter that I actually thought really helped stabilize them. So I'm not mad at Campaign for this performance, even though he was not hitting his 3. It was nice to find other ways to contribute when the threes were not falling. Put it that way.
For sure. Yeah, I think we're fine with just those 3 movements, right?
I would agree. I mean, Khris looked really good again. I think that is a big story from this game. That as long as it was just planned that he would only play half of it to not go overboard with his load as he ramps up. I mean, 5 for 8 from the field, 2 for 3 from deep, 3 assists, 1 steal, 3 rebounds, and just 1 turnover in 15 minutes. Khris looks awesome lately, and he's one of the best mid-range shooters in the league right now. He's been a good playmaker, even if he has some ugly turnovers. And again, Dame didn't shoot well. I'm not saying upstock, but 10 assists and no turnovers for Dame in this game. So
yeah,
the Bucks primaries moved the ball really well.
For sure. Yeah, so I think we're fine with just those 3 movements. It's just it's an interesting time for the Milwaukee Bucks. Also, some other news. All-Star voting.
Yeah. Wait, real quick, Wemby, I want to ask you.
Oh, yeah.
Are they just doing him the biggest disservice with this roster or what?
I mean,
Vassell is good. Vassell had a good game.
I think once they switch to Trey Jones as the starting point guard and not having Jeremy Sohan as the
I just don't know why. But they switched to someone else first too, wasn't it? Branham first, but he was hurt.
Yeah, Branham's hurt.
But he's also not really a point guard. I don't know why. Like, how many experiments do you want to run? Wemby's your experiment. Like, don't make Sohan a point guard while you're trying to get Wemby to figure out NBA basketball. That's my thing. I thought it was silly. Devontae Graham would come, and Devontae Graham stinks. He would come in and be like, oh, their offense looks a lot better because someone who knows how to dribble and pass is on the floor.
It's like the 15-16 Bucks where they were starting MCW at the point guard, and it's just like there's just no playmaking on this team.
One of the craziest ones ever is the year it looked like the Sixers were going to go 6-76, and I forget who it was like Ish Smith maybe.
I think it might have been Ish,
and I think they doubled their win percentage over the last half of the year. Like it was like
having a point guard matters
a lot, or like a distributor. Obviously, if you have the wings to do it, that's fine. But the Spurs do not.
Yeah. Trey Jones and Wemby is a good combo, though.
It's the Wemby part. Trey Jones is fine.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe it's just like he looks better in comparison.
By comparison, It's like, oh my God. That's what I'm saying. I was watching Devontae Graham, and I was like, ooh, he really threw that entry power. He's 1 for 6. Oh, okay.
It turns out get Wemby the ball is good.
There was a couple of fast breaks where they didn't, and I saw so many people sharing the clip. Like, what are we doing?
It's like this dude. It's ridiculous. I don't watch a lot of Spurs games for obvious reasons. Yeah. And to be fair, the Bucks probably saw the best version of Wembanyama that he's played in the NBA so far,
except for the threes. There are games where he knocks him down. He is not good on the season percentage wise, but
but they saw the complete package.
And Vassell, that's the thing. That's why the Spurs made it a game, is those two really played well together and off each other. You could tell, I think they have something there already in terms of a young core. Don't know about almost anyone else on the roster, but that's okay. It's early. And they're going to have more top picks coming, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Hawks,
they are.
Hawks picks, too.
Raptors pick, too, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
From the Pirtle trade?
Yeah. Oh, we haven't even talked about that either.
Oh, the OG.
RJ Anunoby finally gets traded. I thought it was like one of the most fair trades ever, which is hilarious.
I think
for a Masai Ujiri trade.
It is very fair. It's probably going to end up working out. It's just a weird trade.
It makes more sense. Like you saw all the things come out, and it's like, yeah, I think the Raptors could use those two guys more, especially at their ages with Scotty, and the Knicks trying to compete right now with Brunson and Randall and Mitch, and well, probably not with Randall, with whoever they trade Randall for, and could use OG more right now, and they're gonna have to pay him a lot, but he's a great player. He's a very good player. So
yeah, I don't know if the Knicks really like the guy to go trade RJ Barrett for is another wing, but
I think they needed I think they just wanted, like, when you can speed up a guy's progression to his 95th percentile outcome, and you're an older team anyway, like, why not? For 1 second round pick.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's a good trade for both teams.
I see Raptors fans talking about Quickly like he's more than I think he is, but that's okay. They need something to be excited about.
I really like Quickly.
I think he's solid.
I think he's pretty good.
Do you think he ever makes an All-Star team?
No.
Okay. We're on the same page there.
No, I don't think he makes an All-Star team.
Which doesn't make him a bad player.
No, it does not make him a bad player.
It is just a very guard-heavy league right now.
Yeah, but speaking of All-Stars.
Yes.
So the first fan voting returns came in for the All-Star game, which we know everyone cares so much about.
I actually do in this case.
I do in this case as well, and I was being sarcastic, but I was going to zig from my zag, but you know me too well, Ty. So the first fan voting has returned. Giannis leads the entire league in votes. It's been him or LeBron for the past like 5-6 years now.
It's usually been LeBron, no?
It's usually been LeBron.
I was going to say, that's noteworthy.
LeBron might catch up, because I think the same thing happened last year or 2 seasons ago, where in the first return, Giannis came back leading the league, and then LeBron came and took the lead. And they're not doing captains this year, correct?
No, it's East versus West again.
What a bad year to do it if you're the Bucks, because you're playing with Tyrese Haliburton, who is the leading vote getter for guards in the East, and the game is in Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah.
So it'll be a fun environment, considering it looks, as of right now, that the Milwaukee Bucks could have 2 all-star starters, because Giannis not only leading the entire league, and therefore the front court in the East in fan voting, Damian Lillard is second place in fan voting in the Eastern Conference.
Pretty big lead too, right?
He has around an 82,000 vote.
Oh, not
lead.
very big then.
No. So he's at 950, around 956,000 votes. Trae Young is around 874,000 votes. But then from there, Donovan Mitchell, 625, Tyrese Maxey, 480. So
Maxey's the one getting robbed.
Yeah, realistically, yeah.
I mean, so it's a combination of, what is it, player, fan, media?
And media. So 50% is the fan vote, 25% player, 25% media.
I mean, you've got to feel pretty good that players and media are going to give Dame an edge over Trae Young. I would think.
Yes, but Tyrese Maxey, though, is where it really comes into play.
Well, but if the fan vote's that big and Dame like triples him up, I don't know if it's that relevant.
I don't. I think it's ranked. It's not based on like how many more votes you have. It's based on like your position.
So if Maxey finished first in the other 2, but fan vote is worth more, and Dame finished first there.
Well, yeah, then it would get, but I don't think Dame's going to finish first, because he's like 400,000 votes behind Tyrese Haliburton.
But there's 2 spots. So finish second.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll finish that much lower than second in player or media voting.
Yeah, that's fair.
We'll see. It'll be interesting. I hope they do it. It'll be the first time ever for 2 Bucks to start an All-Star game.
Yeah.
I mean, we know Giannis will, but...
Giannis is going to, just obviously. But... Yeah. Whether we see Damian Lillard there, it would be it'd be really fun.
I feel pretty good. He'll probably be in the game no matter what.
He'll definitely be in the game.
I was talking to my buddy Demetrius about this. I was like, I don't know. He hasn't really, he has kind of rough patch, and he's just like, he's not a Bucks fan, just like an NBA fan. He goes, it's Damian Lillard. you forgot how this works. He's going to be in the game. And I was like, oh, that's cool. We're not used to that.
It's great. We're not used to that at all. We're not used to having another top 75 guy of all time. We're not used to having a household name.
Listen, these are the 4 stats that tell you why Jrue Holiday should be in the Derek White, which is the Celtics people are doing now.
All five Boston Celtics starters have made the top 10 in guards and front court.
I do wonder. I assume maybe 3 of them go. I do wonder how they decide which ones go. It's going to be interesting.
Tatum's going.
Well, obviously, yes.
Jalen's probably going.
I think Jalen and KP have realistically the best 2 cases, but the Celtics people are like, no, Derek White. It's like they might cannibalize and lose out on an All-Star because everything you see is like Derek White. It's like, okay, he's like 16-5. Like
it's just not.
It's hard to do it that way. I know he's a great defender. I am well aware of this. The All-Star game is the All-Star game.
Yeah. Why do you think we were so surprised when Jrue made it last year?
That the sad thing is like no one's even thinking about him.
Jrue is 10th in guards for.
I'm actually shocked he even placed. If you look at the season,
because he hasn't done that in the past in terms of fan voting.
Yeah. It must just be like, I mean, it makes sense, I guess. All the Celtics people have to be hype about being able to vote for a whole starting 5 and having it not be completely ridiculous. Obviously, they're not all going to make it, but.
Yeah. But it looks like, Giannis is a lock. Dame should be on the All-Star team. It's just a matter of whether he starts or not. And just for news, I guess, in the Western Conference, it's LeBron, KD, Jokic. For the front court, top
crazy. Get it together, Denver and Serbia.
I know, it's crazy, right? Like Jokic is 3rd. He's like 160,000 votes behind AD.
AD or KD?
KD, excuse me.
I was going to say, okay, I wouldn't be that shocked, but.
No, AD is 4th. That's why I got confused.
Yeah.
And then Luka and Steph leading the charge for guards in the West. SGA is 3rd. James Harden is 4th. There's a massive drop. Do you want to hear the drop off?
Yeah.
So 3rd is SGA with 967,000 votes. 4th is James Harden with 432.
Oh wow. I mean SGA should be starting it. I don't know who you take out exactly. Probably Steph, but SGA has been otherworldly. Yeah,
but it's the same Dame thing. Like it's Steph.
You know what's sad about those returns specifically? Who's not on that list? Devin Booker is not on that top 10 list. Like, so there's just like a bunch of KD fans who haven't glommed onto the Suns, I guess. That's just odd. Like, I know obviously KD's hugely popular. I mean, Devin Booker is awesome.
Devin Booker's the best player on the Suns.
He's one of the best. He's one of the best 5 players in that conference.
Oh, for sure. And it's so strange to me. Like, this is a guy who's been in the finals. Like, dropped 40-point games in the finals. Like,
but you know what? He was a victim of that. Even like at that time, people were still like, "Oh, it's Chris Paul's leadership."
But even in terms of like popularity, I'm saying in terms of being like a household name, like he dated Kendall Jenner. Like, how do people not know who Devin Booker is?
That's a good point.
Didn't he get into it with like Bad Bunny or something too?
And I feel like too, he's like
how do people not know who Devin Booker is?
Tatum is way more famous, but like Booker's probably better, right?
I'd say so.
It's at least a combo.
Yeah, I'd say they're on like at worst on par.
Same with Shea, and I feel like even Shea, because you can say, oh, it's Phoenix versus Boston. I think Shea he's 3rd in the votes. I think he's better than Booker too, but I don't think it's like.
And Shea's in like Skims commercials.
Shea plays in Oklahoma City.
I know, it's crazy. I don't know
for the Clippers, which aren't even like a real entity.
Yeah, and he wasn't a guy on the Clippers. But
no, exactly.
It's just crazy, and it can't just be because he went to Kentucky. Like,
no, because so did Booker.
Exactly. Yeah. I just don't get it.
Like, everyone in the league.
Why does Devin Booker have no aura?
I think he does, though.
Does it? Clearly not.
No, I think Booker's awesome. I just think he's underserved.
I just know I think he's awesome. Not
even just on court, like his presence, I think is good.
He has a signature shoe.
Yeah,
and it's crazy.
He's got less All-Star votes than Caitlin Clark. She's not even in the game or league.
It's crazy. It's absolutely insane.
He's probably the least respected for his skill level player in the league right now. No.
So 170 is the cutoff, right? So that's like 10th in the West is 170, 500. That's Austin Reeves. So Devin Booker got less votes than that. Players like Paolo Banchero got 164. Kyle Kuzma got 178.
Dude, who is voting for? Is it
Chet
still
Holmgren is getting 187.
I mean, Chet's had a really fun year.
Mikal Bridges has 200K.
Wow. Okay, that puts it in perspective. Less than Mikal on the Nets. That's bad. What's going on, Phoenix?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. It's like KD, clearly he has like 1.8 million votes. Like that's going to happen.
I mean, yeah, KD, but like you can't have half.
De'Aaron Fox has 210.
He's had a great year too, but not as good.
He's worse than Booker, and he plays in Sacramento.
Yeah,
I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Odd. That is very, very odd.
Yeah, just he has no Alperen Şengün. He has a country behind it, but like 336, 335. Excuse me. It's crazy. Like Paul George has 420. I like Paul George. I like Paul George a lot.
Like
if Paul George wants to
around a top 5 guy in the league for a long time, and very likable, and has a good podcast.
Yeah, bam.
Played
238,
but played in Indiana and OKC, and then the Clippers first. It's not like he's like Paul George never got the Lakers bump either.
No, it's just like I don't understand how Tyrese Maxey has like at least double the votes.
Well, I think he probably still doesn't even have enough is the crazy thing.
No, correct. And like LaMelo Ball, 233.
The LaMelo.
Derek White, 176.
What's Brunson have?
Brunson's at 374.
Honestly, a lot. Isn't that crazy? Not saying he deserves to be higher on that list. He does a little bit, but the Knicks fans aren't doing more for Brunson. Tyrese Halliburton of the Indiana Pacers has 1 million more votes than Jalen Brunson of the Knicks.
Yeah, that's
hard to believe.
Insane.
I think the All-Star,
Julius Randle isn't top 10 in forwards.
Yeah. The Knicks fans are voting for Embiid. That's weird though.
It's so weird. I don't understand. Like also, I love that for the last couple of years we haven't been able to do like the social media votes.
Yeah.
That's good because you could just get a lot of bot manipulation.
But they still have Reeves and Kuzma. That's the craziest thing to me.
I don't understand.
I get Reeves more.
Pingus says 190, 197.
The Celtics fans and Lakers fans, I get it. But like Kuzma still?
Yeah.
Like why?
Kyrie Irving, 388.
That's always going to be. I think players like hoopers love Kyrie Irving. He's having an okay year.
But like, okay, what about like a guy like Anthony Edwards? Like, I love Ant. Like, don't get me wrong, he's a great player. 290 votes. Devin Booker can't get half,
and he's like significantly better.
I don't understand.
The Booker thing is weird.
It's true, and it's not even like
the last people who would be doing. I guess outside of Mavericks people, but like. I mean, I have a lot of Booker's just really, he's gotten like significantly better. It feels like every year too.
It's crazy. Yeah, we'd be the last people you'd expect to be doing.
It's going to come out next votes. He's going to be like, there's a Suns guard has breached the top 10. Congratulations, Bradley Beal. We're just going to be like, what is going on, dude?
It's just
are surgeons voting? What is happening?
There needs to be investigate. If Devin Booker is not in the top 10 and Bradley Beal is, he needs to like audit these votes.
Dude, Austin Reeves is like a 20-minute per game player on a team that's 2 of and 8 in their last 10, and he's on there. And I know Lakers, I get it. But like, come on, dude.
It's crazy. It's crazy to me.
If anyone's unfamiliar, the coaches pick the reserves. So realistically, outside of the top like 4 or 5, doesn't really matter the voting, but it's always interesting to see.
Yeah. Like James Harden getting 432,000 votes is just crazy.
I know those Rockets fans are still doing. They can't quit him. They love him still.
They do. They wish they had him back.
He's playing well. I mean, the Clippers are kind of good.
No, the Clippers actually look formidable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that we spent 20 minutes talking about Devin Booker.
One last thing, we'll talk about the rest of the league. Old friend Darvin Ham may be available for an assistant coaching gig. I don't know if I don't think he'd actually go to the Bucks because he was a Bud guy anyway, but it's not good. They're putting out the stories now. Bucks fans thought we got one of the stories earlier. No, that was one of the stories.
Yep. Did you see who was a big business on Twitter?
Oh,
who
boy.
I'm not gonna really advertise a lot for.
Well, you already did. He's popular enough. I mean, it doesn't need our endorsement.
But they had tweeted something about like after the Lakers lost last night, it's like, yeah, Shams is gonna get the call tomorrow after LeBron didn't do media. And then the Shams report comes out in the morning. I love how Shams in that report, which was like credit to him, he did a report. With someone else. I can't remember the beat writer's name. Lakers athletic beat writer.
Jovan?
Yes. Yeah. Hoo-ha, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like 6 player sources told me this. Like,
that was the best part, for sure.
Like,
that was the best part.
It's so funny. Usually you'd say like multiple.
6.
Nah, he's like, I'm naming them 6.
Somebody said the clutch guys, which I don't think that's factually true, but that's a very funny way of looking at it.
It is. It is a very funny way of looking at it. But it's like, yeah, you can see this coming a mile away because it's a LeBron team that's struggling and has been struggling. And it's just unfortunate for our guy, Darvin. Maybe he wasn't a Bud guy. Maybe he was an Oppenheimer guy. Maybe he's coming back.
Maybe he's an Oppenheimer, the movie guy. I don't think he's a Josh Oppenheimer guy. We'll see. We
shall see. But do you think they fire him?
Yeah, that's on the wall.
Yeah, I think
from the actual coverage people I follow, I don't think he's done a great job there. Obviously, he's being scapegoated for a bad roster that they were excited about getting and is just not all that good. But with no shooting really. But yeah, I don't think he's going to see out the season, unfortunately.
Unfortunate for our boy.
Who is it? Phil Handy, everyone loves over there.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be at the helm by the end of the year.
We shall see, but it's good to be back. We haven't done a pod for a while. It's been like a week and a half.
It's been a year.
Yeah,
since last year.
We haven't podded since last year. What is it? You shouldn't say Happy New Year after January 3rd, but Happy New Year, everyone.
Well, you just okay.
What?
Well, you did it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm saying, even though you probably shouldn't, I'm still going to wish the listeners a Happy New Year.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you for listening to this episode of the Eurostep here on Blue Wire and GSPN. Make sure you check out gspn.info for all of our links. Big Packer game. Big Packer game on Sunday.
Is it winning in? Or do they need help too? They need help too, or no?
No. If they win that game, they make the playoffs.
Shows where I've been at.
Yeah, I think there's like 2 scenarios where if they lose and like 3 other teams lose, they can make it.
Forget that. Winning in.
But
that's what matters.
Winning in. For the second straight season, they have a win and in game. So make sure you're following Talk of the Tundra. Find all the links at gspn.info. Shout out to all of our podcasts. Make time for this. Cruising for a Bruising. Win in 6. Win in 6. Adam and Jordan, they just did a great piece on the unfortunate passing of Senator Herb Kohl. Make sure you check that out. If you're listening on the podcast, it's on the same feed. If you're watching on YouTube, check out gspn.info. You'll find the links. But yeah, make sure you subscribe to wherever you're listening to this or watching this. Pod Random, and we'll talk to you next time.